little buns, it is Steph. Welcome back to my parents' house with my mother, who you may remember from such works as the mom tag and doing mom's makeup, I think is what I called that. Say hello, Ma.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so I went to Twitter and I asked you guys to send me questions for my mother in regards to being the parent of a transgender child. So let's see what you asked us, and we'll answer as many as we can. Twitter user Avery Rose, did you know or have a feeling that Steph was trans before she came out?
No, I don't think that I knew she was trans. I did know that I did know that she was always feminine. Always, from the time she was able to walk. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, very feminine. I guess I did know in the back of my mind.
But like, I think you didn't really know because like you might have thought of, like, I don't know if
it crossed my mind, I'll say that.
Okay, but I don't think you would have applied that to real life because there were no, would you say there was any trans people in the media?
There was none.
So you wouldn't even have an idea?
No,
Yeah.
I knew you were very feminine, but I didn't really understand trans and, you know.
Yeah, she had no understanding. Twitter user PTX Misha, were you shocked when Steph told you she was trans?
Yes. Because I always accepted Steph as gay, like that's just who she was and that's who I thought she was, and I was very okay, like I had no qualms about that at all.
Yeah.
So
I think what happened was she had accepted something so strongly in her head, and it took her, I don't know if it took her a while to get there or not, but like it was just concrete, and then to have that changed, because I didn't talk to her about it beforehand, I just kind of laid it out on her. I was just like, this is this.
Right.
But I've been thinking about it and talking about it to other people for like a year before I talked to her, so it was a shock. And I knew it was a shock.
It was a shock. It was.
Twitter user Avery Rose again, what advice do you have for parents of LGBT plus children?
Oh wow. Educate yourself. Educate. If you can talk to other people, other families, people that have been through the surprise or whatever. Like I actually have found friendship with a trans woman that has helped me so much. I feel like I've been able to ask her every question that I wasn't sure I should ask Steph. And that woman has helped me all the way through it. Really, nothing shocks her. I could ask her anything and she's okay.
We've heard every question and she's no exception.
Right, but it's easier for me to ask her because she's actually the same age as me, and I can ask her questions that maybe I'm not sure I should ask Steph, you know, because I don't want to hurt Steph's feelings. So this woman is very open and honest with me. So yeah, I'd say educate. That's what you have to do for yourself.
Mm-hmm. If you have, like the woman she's referring to was kind of like a mentor for me in the beginning of my transition especially, but still. So if there's somebody like that in your life that you know personally that you speak to, you might maybe want to connect your parent to that person. That way they can have the same resource. Even if they're accepting but they're not really sure how to handle it, if you can encourage them to connect with a trans person that maybe they can relate to in some other way, like with my mom, they're the same age range, then it's likely that they'll have a better understanding of that person's life than yours, because it's a very different life compared to, you know, the time gap makes a difference. Twitter user Malnourished Guava, how much did your mom know about trans people before you came out? How did she educate herself about it? I mean, how much did you know about trans people before I came out?
Nothing. Actually, I guess what I thought of a trans person is a performer. Like I always thought they were entertainers, like somebody that, like I confused it with
drag queens.
That's what I did,
especially in your age group. A lot of people do that.
So yeah, I think, you know, until I actually talked to a trans woman and was able to ask her I asked her some pretty personal questions, and she was very open and honest with me. So yeah, I really didn't have any understanding of a trans person before this.
So how did she educate herself about it would be talking to that woman. I also sent her you read books.
A lot, yes.
Books and articles, and I sent her videos of some other trans people that maybe she hadn't encountered before, other internet people, or even like TV, whatever.
Right, I had no idea it was like that there were just that many, and there was that much information that I had access to. So,
The internet.
Yeah.
Twitter user Gavin Jules, was it hard for you to use Steph's preferred name and pronouns?
yes.
I'm not surprised by that, and I'm not insulted by it either.
I try really hard to use the correct pronouns, especially when I'm with Steph. But I mean, the odd time, I mean, for 20 years, I raised Steph as he. So for me to just change that, it took a while.
And it's not because she didn't want to, it's
Right.
because it's something that,
It's just
I mean, if you call somebody something for 20
Right.
years, it's gonna
Right.
take a little bit of adjusting, but the point where it becomes malicious, which has not happened with you
No,
at all. The point where it becomes malicious is when they start saying like, it's too hard, I don't want to try,
No,
blah, blah,
I
blah.
want to.
If they slip up once or twice, it's not, I mean,
Right.
it's not great, but it's not,
And I also correct myself.
Yeah.
Like if I catch myself instantly, I
so
correct
as
myself.
long as your parent or guardian is trying, that's important. Obviously, if it goes on for like 4 years and they're still not getting it, it's kind of frustrating.
I would say it took me probably
A couple months.
a couple months before I actually started using the correct pronouns, and then it just felt normal to me. So yeah, now I feel like I do pretty good with it.
Yeah, you do. This is interesting. Twitter user Malnourished Guava, did you take pictures of Steph before transitioning out of photo albums, or do you keep them in for memory's sake? I want to start by saying, just because somebody transitions does not mean the rest of their life is forfeit. I wouldn't want her to take those photos out of photo albums because I'm not trying to raise the illusion that I am a cisgender woman. My memories of childhood were definitely, I looked like that. I'm not offended, I'm not bothered by that. It doesn't cause me dysphoria because I like the way I looked as a kid better than I do now. In terms of facial structure. I feel like it would be unhealthy for the trans person to want to cast that out of their life. And obviously, so every trans person's different, so they might want to, but I would encourage you to not feel shame about that and to acknowledge that you are moving forward as a different physical self, but the same person. You know what I mean?
And we did kind of follow Steph's lead on that, because there's no way that I would have gotten rid of any pictures of her growing up, because we had some absolute amazing memories. But we did follow her lead. Like we do a photo wall in this room actually.
Yeah.
And I asked her before we completed it if there was any pictures she was uncomfortable with, that we would not put them up there, and she was fine with whatever our choice was.
That's a very good question, though.
So that is an excellent question, because we at the same time, we adore and love those pictures and treasure them. We wanted Steph to feel comfortable when she came here. So yeah, our house is loaded with childhood pictures of Steph.
The good question though, that, like when I say it's a good question, was that you asked me if there were any pictures that made me uncomfortable.
Right.
That applies to any situation if you're raising a trans person.
Respect.
And following their lead and making sure you're not stepping on them unintentionally. I don't know, that was good that you asked me that. I appreciated that.
Good. We try.
2 questions left. Twitter user K-Sena, what is the best way to be a support as a mother to a trans person? Or as a parent in general?
As a parent, we believe acceptance. Like you accept your child for who they are, unconditional. You know, like there should be no conditions on love. Absolutely none. Just acceptance. Like I don't care if the child that you were given, like the child that, you know, happens at birth, isn't the child that you expected. So what? Love it. It's your child and it's supposed to be your child. So never ever, there's no reason to throw your child away. Ever, ever, ever. So yeah, acceptance and love.
I think acceptance kind of goes with trust. So if you trust your child to know what is best for them, you're going to have an easier time accepting that they are taking the right steps or doing the right things, right? Because like if, for example, if you as a parent do not trust your child and then they're like, oh, I'm transitioning, you're gonna be like, are you sure? But if you trust them, you'll be like, okay, let me just see what this is about. The problem here is a lot of children that are not necessarily maybe not trusted, if they were to transition, if that's what's good for them, they're going to become better people. They're going to become more trustworthy. So that's where the difficult part comes forward, is if there's somebody that's historically maybe not super trustworthy and they're transitioning to make themselves have a better life, to improve their quality of life, to improve themselves as a person, and then the parent is like, I'm not sure, you know, are you sure about this? It gets cloudy. So in general, if your child says they're going to transition, it's 99.99% of the time it's a good thing. I should say 100%, but
and with the trust thing, I believe that we raised you and your brother, like we raised you in a good way. Like if we did a good job as a parent, you should know who you are as a person. So we believe we did that. Like we raised our kids to the best of our ability. So we have to believe that they have, the right foundation. So they're going to go forward with whatever they choose in life, and we're going to support them.
Very nice. Okay, last question. Twitter user Razio, what's going to be the best way to come out so that it's easier for both of you? So like obviously the way I told you was over the phone. It was weird, but like let's say there was a perfect situation in which I told you that I was transitioning. What would that have been?
For me, actually, I think telling us over the phone was a good thing.
Okay.
Because it gave us time to think it through. And instead of reacting instantly, like sometimes when you're in a room and emotions are high, things might get said that shouldn't have been said. After your dad and I were done talking with you, we looked at each other and we thought about, like we just both thought, what's the main worry for us? I was feeling terrified for your safety.
Okay.
And that's because of all the negative news and stuff. So now, like I said, I try not to read the negative news. I try not to, and I've asked people, please don't share it with me. Please, I don't want to know those things because I think as a parent, you want to know your child is safe. But as a parent, you also want to know that your child is happy. And to us, your happiness is very, very important. So your dad and I both felt, you know what? She is happy. So that's what we want.
I'm much happier than I was before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What would you say, like this is my question
Okay.
for you, what would you say is the biggest difference since I started transitioning? Like what is the biggest thing you've noticed, aside from physical things?
I would say, your spirit, your outlook, like you were...
Don't worry, I know. You can say whatever you want.
Well, you were in a very dark place, and we always worried then, would you tell us, and we always used to tell you that. You can tell us anything.
Still do.
You can tell us.
But that's good, you should.
Right. But I mean, now, that isn't in the front of my worries.
Okay.
Like, because I feel like you are happy. I feel like you are who you're supposed to be. So yeah, to me that's the biggest change. And your personality, your outgoing personality, which I always knew was there because it was there when you were 2.
Yeah.
It went away
when I hit puberty.
Yeah.
When I started growing hair
and
on
that
my
was
face
devastating.
and bones on my body that I didn't want.
Yeah. But I also have to say, and I don't know, I do know you edit your videos and stuff, but I also have to say that I think the following, like I think your Bread Squad, I think all those people have helped you become who you are. Like to me, I love reading all the comments. I love reading, that you're inspired by Stef, but I also think that Stef gets strength from you. And I really adore and love how you step up and protect her, just like I would.
Yeah. That's very nice.
I want to say thank you to the Bread Squad for that.
Yeah.
I do.
Cute.
People do ask some great questions. I think that people are getting educated through your channel. And I love that.
Good. So I would say, as a last note, if you know any parents of trans people that are having difficulty, or if you are the child of parents that are having difficulty accepting, understanding, or grasping the concept or whatever, maybe send them this and they can, go through my other content that is regarding trans education, and maybe they can have a stronger foundation to understand you on. I think that would be very important. We hope this has been helpful in some way to some of you, in some place, somewhere in the universe.
Well, I do know another question that I've seen a lot.
What?
Is questions about your dad.
Okay.
And whether he's supportive.
Yeah, okay, actually.
He absolutely is supportive of Stef, but he is very, very shy.
I wouldn't even say he's shy, he's very private.
He is a private person, definitely.
Yes.
But he's a very, I'd say he is shy. He is shy. And both, the puppy is crying. Both Stef's dad and brother are very private people.
Hold on, hold that thought. The baby wants to come out. Darling, are you okay? How are you, my baby? Come on, sit with us. Come on, Lucy. Sit with Mommy and Stef. Come on, Lucy. Okay, continue.
They're both very, very private people, but both of them are supportive of Stef. Like our entire family really is supportive of Stef. And I think, you know, eventually you might see them in a video or something,
Yeah.
but
At their own pace.
at their own, yeah, they're very shy, but very, very loving, and neither one of them has any issues at all with Stef. So, yeah, they're both wonderful people too.
Yeah.
And when you meet them, you'll see they're identical too.
Yeah. I'm just like my mother and my brother just like my dad.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Side note, this is Lucy. She's my parents' new puppy. Little puppy they adopted. She's a precious little angel, and she's my favorite thing in the world. Anyway, we're gonna head out now because this puppy's not relevant to this video as much as I do love her. We'll see you again very, very soon. Thank you so much for coming, and I love you so much. Bye!
Bye.